They also achieved the position of brahmanas. The son of Brihatakshatra constructed the city of Hastinapur and was known as Hasti. The sons of Ajamida, Dvimida, and his sons were Ajamida, Dvimida, and Purmida. From Ajamida came Priyamedra and other brahmanas, and also a son named Brihadishu. The sons, grandsons, and further descendants of Brihadishu were Brihadanu, Brihatkaya, Jayadrath, Vishada, and Shenajit. From Shenajit came four sons, Ruchirasva, Driyadanu, Kashya, and Vatsa. From Ruchirasva came a son named Para, whose sons were Priyatsena and Nipa, and from Nipa came 100 sons. Another son of Nipa was Brahmadatta. From Brahmadatta came Vishvakshen, from Vishvakshen, Udakshen, and from Udakshen, Balata. The son of Demida was Yavanara, and from Yavanara came many sons and grandsons, such as Kritiman, Satyadriti, Drihanemi, Suparshva, Sumati, Sanatinman, Kriti, Nipa, Udgrayudu, Yuda, Kshema, Shavira, Ripunjaya, and Bahurath. Purumida had no sons, but Ajamida, in addition to his other sons, had a son named Nila, whose son was Shanti. The descendants of Shanti were Shushnanti, Puraja, Arka, and Bharmyasva. Bharmyasva had 5 sons, of whom Mudgala begat the dynasty of Brahmanas. Mudgala had twins, a son, Devosh Das, and a daughter, Alaya. From Alaya, by her husband Gautama, Satananda was born. The son of Satananda was Satyadriti, and his son was Saradvan. Saradvan's son was known as Kripi, and Saradvan's daughter, known as Kripi, became the wife of Dronacharya. Text 1. Shukadeva Goswami said, because Bharadwaj was delivered by the Marut demigods, he was known as Vitala, or Vitata. The son of Vitata was Manu, and from Manu came 5 sons, Brihakchakra, Jaya, Mahavirya, Nara, and Garga. Of these 5, the one known as Nara had a son named Sankriti. Text 2. O Maharaj Prikit, descendant of Pandu, Sankriti had 2 sons, named Guru and Rantidev. Rantidev is famous in both this world and the next, for he is glorified not only in human society, but also in the society of the demigods. Text 3 through 5. Rantidev never endeavored to earn anything. He would enjoy whatever he got by the arrangement of providence, but when guests came, he would give them everything. Thus he underwent considerable suffering, along with the members of his family. Indeed, he and his family members shivered for want of food and water, yet Rantidev always remained sober. Once, after fasting for 48 days, in the morning Rantidev received some water and some foodstuffs made with milk and ghee. But when he and his family were about to eat, a Brahmana guest arrived. Text 6. Because Rantidev perceived the presence of the Supreme Godhead everywhere and in every living entity, he received the guest with faith and respect and gave him a share of the food. The Brahmana guest ate his share and then went away. Purport. Rantidev perceived the presence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in every living being, but he never thought that because the Supreme Lord is present in every living being must be God. Nor did he distinguish between one living being and another. He perceived the presence of the Lord both in the Brahmana and in the Chandala. This is the true equality of vision, as confirmed by the Lord himself in Bhagavad Gita 5:18. Vidya vinaya sampane brahmani gavihastini suvachaiva svapakecha pandita samadarshana. Quote, the humble sage, by virtue of true knowledge, sees with equal vision a learned and gentle brahmana, a cow, an elephant, a dog, and a dog-eater, outcast. End quote. A Pandit, a learned person, perceives the presence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in every living being. Therefore, although it has now become fashionable to give preference to the so-called Daridra Narayan, quote, poor Narayan, end quote, Rantidev had no reason to give preference to any one person. The idea that because Narayan is present in the heart of one who is Daridra, or poor, the poor man should be called Daridra Narayan is a wrong conception. By such logic, because the Lord is present within the hearts of the dogs and hogs, the dogs and hogs would also be Narayan. One should not mistakenly think that Rantidev subscribed to this view. Rather, he saw everyone as part of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari Sambandhi Vastana. It is not that everyone is the Supreme Godhead. Such a theory, which is propounded by the Mayavad philosophy, is always misleading, and Rantidev would never have accepted it. Text 7. Thereafter, having divided the remaining food with his relatives, Rantidev was just about to eat his own share when a Shudra guest arrived. Seeing the Shudra in relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, King Rantidev gave him also a share of that food. Purport. Because King Rantidev saw everyone as part of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he never distinguished between the Brahmana and the Shudra, the poor and the rich. Such equal vision is called Samadarshana, Pandita Samadarshana. One who has actually realized that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is situated in everyone's heart and that every living being is part of the Lord, does not make any distinction between the Brahmana and the Shudra, the poor, Daridra, and the rich, Dani. Such a person sees all living beings equally and treats them equally without discrimination. Text 8. When the Shudra went away, another guest arrived, surrounded by dogs, and said, quote, O king, I and my company of dogs are very hungry. Please give us something to eat. End quote. Text 9. With great respect, King Rantidev offered the balance of the food to the dogs and the master of the dogs, who had come as guests. The king offered them all respects and obeisances. Text 10. Thereafter, only the drinking water remained, but there was only enough to satisfy one person. But when the king was just about to drink it, a Chandala appeared and said, quote, O king, although I am low-born, kindly give me some drinking water. End quote. Text 11. Aggrieved at hearing the pitiable words of the poor, fatigued Chandala, Maharaj Rantidev spoke the following nectarian words. Purport. Maharaj Rantidev's words were like amrita, or nectar. Therefore, aside from rendering bodily service to an aggrieved person, by his words alone, the king could save the life of anyone who might hear him. Text 12. I do not pray to the Supreme Personality of Godhead for the 8 perfections of mystic yoga, nor for salvation from repeated birth and death. I want only to stay among all the living entities and suffer all distresses on their behalf, so that they may be free from suffering. Purport. Vasudeva Datta made a similar statement to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, requesting the Lord to liberate all living entities in his presence. Vasudeva Datta submitted that if they were unfitted to be liberated, he himself would take all their sinful reactions and suffer personally so that the Lord might deliver them. A Vaishnava is therefore described as being parasukha dukhi, very much aggrieved by the suffering of others. As such, a Vaishnava engages in activities for the real welfare of human society. Text 13. By offering my water to maintain the life of this poor Chandala who is struggling to live, I have been freed from all hunger, thirst, fatigue, trembling of the body, moroseness, distress, lamentation, and delusion. Text 14. Having spoken thus, King Rantidev, although on the verge of death because of thirst, gave his own portion of water to the Chandala without hesitation, for the king was naturally very kind and sober. Text 15. Demigods like Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, who can satisfy all materially ambitious men by giving them the rewards they desire, then manifested their own identities before King Rantidev, for it was they who had presented themselves as the Brahmana, Shudra, Chandala, and so on. Text 16. King Rantidev had no ambition to enjoy material benefits from the demigods. He offered them obeisances because he was factually attached to Lord Vishnu, Vasudeva, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He fixed his mind at Lord Vishnu's lotus feet. Report. Srila Narottam Das Thakur has sung, Anya Deva Shrayanai Tomera Kaniyo Bai E Bhakti Parama Karana. If one wants to become a pure devotee of the Lord, one should not hanker to take benedictions from the demigods. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 7.20, Kamastastar Hritigyan Prapadyanti Nyadevta. Those befooled by the illusion of the material energy worship gods other than the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, although Rantidev was personally able to see Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, he did not hanker to take material benefits from them. Rather, he fixed his mind upon Lord Vasudeva and rendered devotional service unto him. This is a sign of a pure devotee whose heart is not adulterated by material desires. Anyabilashita shunyam ganakarmadyanavritam alakulena krishnanu shilnam bhaktirutama. One should render transcendental loving service to the Supreme Lord Krishna favorably and without desire for material profit or gain through fruitive activities or philosophical speculation. That is called pure devotional service. End quote. Text 17. O Maharaj Parikshit, because King Rantidev was a pure devotee, always Krishna conscious and free from all material desires, the Lord's illusory energy, Maya, could not exhibit herself before him. On the contrary, for him, Maya entirely vanished, exactly like a dream. Purport. As it is said, Krishna Suryasama Maya Haya Andakara, Yatan Krishna Tahanahi Mayara Adhikara. Just as there is no chance that darkness can exist in the sunshine, in a pure Krishna-conscious person there can be no existence of Maya. The Lord himself says in Bhagavad Gita 7.14, Daivahyesha gunamari dhamma maya taratya mameva ye papadyante maya metantarantite. Quote, this divine energy of mine, consisting of the three modes of material nature, is difficult to overcome, but those who have surrendered unto me can easily cross beyond it. End quote. If one wants to be free from the influence of Maya, the illusory energy, one must become Krishna conscious and always keep Krishna prominent within the core of his heart. In Bhagavad Gita 9.34, the Lord advises that one always think of him. Manmana bhava madbhakta madhyaji mam namaskaru. In this way, by always being Krishna-minded or Krishna-conscious, one can surpass the influence of Maya, mayam etam tarantite. Because Rantidev was Krishna-conscious, he was not under the influence of the illusory energy. The word svapnavat is significant in this connection, because in the material world the mind is absorbed in materialistic activities. When one is asleep, many contradictory activities appear in one's dreams. When one awakens, however, these activities automatically merge into the mind. Similarly, as long as one is under the influence of the material energy and makes many plans and schemes, but when one is Krishna conscious, such dream-like plans automatically disappear. Text 18. All those who followed the principles of King Rantidev were totally favored by his mercy and became pure devotees attached to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayan. Thus they all became the best of yogis. Purport. The best yogis or mystics are the devotees, as confirmed by the Lord himself in Bhagavad Gita 6.47. Yoginam api sarvesham madgadantarantaratmana shadavam bhajate yomam yamesh yuktatmato mata. Quote, of all yogis, he who always abides in me with great faith, worshipping me in transcendental loving service, is most intimately united with me in yoga and is the highest of all. End quote. The best yogi is he who constantly thinks of the Supreme Personality of Godhead within the core of the heart. Because Rantidev was the king, the chief executive in the state, all the residents of the state became devotees of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayan, by the king's transcendental association. This is the influence of a pure devotee. If there is one pure devotee, his association can create hundreds and thousands of pure devotees. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that a Vaishnava is meritorious in proportion to the number of devotees he has created. A Vaishnava becomes superior not simply by jugglery of words, but by the number of devotees he has created for the Lord. Here the word Rantidevanu Vartana indicates that Rantidev's officers, friends, relatives, and subjects all became first-class Vaishnavas by his association. In other words, Rantidev is confirmed herein to be a first-class devotee, or Mahabhagavat. Matsevam dravam ahur vimukte. One should render service to such Mahatmas, for then one will automatically achieve the goal of liberation. Srila Narottam Das Thakur has also said, Chadiya Vaishnava Seva Nitstara Prichikeva. One cannot be liberated by his own effort, but if one becomes subordinate to a pure Vaishnav, the door to liberation is open. Text 19. From Garbhaga came a son named Shini, and his son was Gargya. Although Gargya was a Kshatriya, there came from him a generation of Brahmanas. From Mahavira became a son named Dhirita Shaya, whose sons were Trayaruni, Kavi, and Pushkaruni. Although these sons of Dushkarashaya took birth in the dynasty of Kshatriyas, they too attained the position of Brahmanas. Briya Kshatra had a son named Hashti, who established the city of Hastinapur, now New Delhi. Text 21. From King Hasti came 3 sons, named Ajamida, Dvimida, and Puramida. The descendants of Ajamida, headed by Priyamedha, all achieved the position of Brahmanas. Purport. This verse gives evidence confirming the statement of Bhagavad Gita that the orders of society, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra, are calculated in terms of qualities and activities, guna karma vibhagasa. All the descendants of Ajamida, who was a Kshatriya, became Brahmanas. This was certainly because of their qualities and activities. Similarly, sometimes the sons of Brahmanas and Kshatriyas become Vaishyas. Brahmana Vaishyatam Gata. When a Kshatriya or Brahmana adopts the duty or occupation of a Vaishya, Krishi Gorakshya Vanijyam, he is certainly counted as a Vaishnava. On the other hand, if one is born a Vaishya by his activities, he can become a Brahmana. This is confirmed by Narada Muni. Yashya Lal Lakshanam Proktam. The members of all the Varnas, or social orders, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra, must be ascertained by their symptoms, not by birth. Birth is immaterial. Quality is essential. Text 22. From Ajamida came a son named Brihadishu. From Brihadishu came a son named Brihadanu. From Brihadanu, a son named Brihatkaya. From Brihatkaya, a son named Jayadratha. Text 23. The son of Jayadratha was Vishada, and his son was Shenajit. The sons of Shenajit were Ruchirashva, Dridanu, Kashya, and Vatsa. Text 24. The son of Ruchirashva was Para, and the sons of Para were Purusena and Nipa. Nipa had 100 sons. Text 25. King Nipa begot a son named Brahmadat through the womb of his wife Kritvi, who was the daughter of Shuka. And Brahmadat, who was a great yogi, begot a son named Vishwakshen through the womb of his wife Saraswati. Purport. The Shuka mentioned here is different from the Shukadev Goswami who spoke Srimad Bhagavatam. Shukadev Goswami, the son of Vyasadeva, is described in great detail in the Brahma Vivaitra Purana. There it is said that Vyasadeva maintained the daughter of Jalabi as his wife, and that after they performed penances together for many years, he planted his seed in her womb. The child remained in the womb of his mother for 12 years, and when the father asked the son to come out, the son replied that he would not come out unless he were completely liberated from the influence of Maya. Vyasadeva then assured the child that he would not be influenced by Maya, but this child did not believe his father, for the father was still attached to his wife and children. Vyasadeva then went to Dwarka and informed the personality of Godhead about his problem, and the personality of Godhead, at Vyasadeva's request, went to Vyasadeva's cottage, where he assured the child in the womb that he would not be influenced by Maya. Thus assured, the child came out, but he immediately went away as a Parivrajacharya. When the father, being very much aggrieved, began to follow the saintly boy Shukadev Goswami, the boy created a duplicate Shukadev who later entered family life. Therefore, the Shuka Kanya, or daughter of Shukadev, was mentioned in this verse as is the daughter of the duplicate or imitation Shukadev. The original Shukadev was a lifelong brahmachari. Text 26. Following the instructions of the great sage Jaigirash Gishavva, Vishwakshain compiled an elaborate description of the mystic yoga system. From Vishwakshain, Udakshain was born, and from Udakshain, Bahalata. All these sons were known as descendants of Brihadishu. Text 27. The son of Demida was Yavinara, whose son was Kritiman. The son of Kritiman was well known as Satyadriti. From Satyadriti came a son named Dhiyadnemi, who became the father of Shuparshva. Text 28 through 29. From Shuparshva came a son named Sumati. From Sumati came Santaniman. And from Santaniman came Kriti, who achieved mystic power from Brahma and taught 6 Samhitas of the Prashyasama verses of the Samaveda. The son of Kriti was Nipa, the son of Nipa Ugrayuda, the son of Ugrayuda Kshemya, the son of Kshema Sariva, and the son of Sariva Ripunjaya. Text 30. From Ripunjaya came a son named Bahurath. Purumida was sonless. Ajamida had a son named Nila by his wife known as Nalani, and the son of Nila was Shanti. Text 31 through 33. The son of Shanti was Shushanti, the son of Shushanti was Purujava, and the son of Puruja was Arka. From Arka came Brahmayashva, and from Brahmasva came 5 sons, Mudgala, Yavanara, Brihadashva, Kampila, and Sanjaya. Brahmasya prayed to his sons, quote, "O my sons, please take charge of my 5 states, for you're quite competent to do so," end quote. Thus his 5 sons were known as the Panchalas. From Mudgala came the dynasty of Brahmanas known as Mudgalya. Text 34. Mudgala, the son of Brahmashva, had twin children, one male and the other female. The male child was named Devodas, and the female child was named Ahalya. From the womb of Ahalya, by the semen of her father, Gotama, came a son named Satananda. Text 35. The son of Satananda was Satyadriti, who was expert in archery, and the son of Satyadriti was Sharadvan. When Sharadvan met Urvasi, he discharged semen which fell on a clump of shara grass. From this semen were born 2 all-auspicious babies, one male and the other female. Text 36. While Mara Shantanu was on a hunting excursion, he saw the male and female children laying in the forest, and out of compassion he took them home. Consequently, the male child was known as Kripa, and the female child was named Kripi. Kripi later became the wife of Dronacharya. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 9th canto, 21st chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled The Dynasty of Bharat. The following is a free-for-download audiobook from the website krishnapath.org. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 9, Part 3, Chapter 22, The Descendants of Ajamita. This chapter describes the descendants of Devodas. It also describes Jarasandha, who belonged to the Riksha dynasty, as well as Duryodhana, Arjuna, and others. The son of Devodas was Mitrayu, who had 4 sons, one after another, Shavana, Sudasha, Sahadev, and Somaka. Somaka had 100 sons, of whom the youngest was Prashta, from whom Draupad was born. Draupad's daughter was Draupadi, and his sons were headed by Drishtadyumna. Drishtadyumna's son was Drishtaketu. The following is a free-for-download audiobook available on Google Drive. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 22. Krishna steals the garments of the unmarried gopis. This chapter describes how the marriageable daughters of the cowherd men worshipped Katyayani to get Lord Krishna as their husband, and how Krishna stole the garments of the young girls and gave the girls benedictions. During the month of Magha Shirsha, every day, early in the morning, the young daughters of the cowherds would take at one another's hand, and singing of Krishna's transcendental qualities, go to the Yamuna to bathe. Desiring to obtain Krishna as their husband, they would then worship the goddess Katyayani with incense, flowers, and other items. One day, the young gopis left their garments on the shore as usual, and began playing in the water while chanting of Lord Krishna's activities. Suddenly, Krishna himself came there, took away all the garments, and climbed a nearby Kadamba tree. Wanting to tease the gopis, Krishna said, quote, "I understand how fatigued you gopis are from your austerities, so please come onto the shore and take back your clothes." End quote. The gopis then pretended to be angry and said the cold water of the Yamuna was giving them great pain. If Krishna did not give back their garments, they said, they would inform King Kamsa of all that had happened. But if he did give the clothes back, they would willingly carry out his order in the mood of humble servants. Krishna replied that he had no fear of King Kamsa, and that if the girls really intended to follow his command and be his maidservants, they should each immediately come onto the shore and take their respective garments. The girls, trembling from the cold, climbed out of the water with their 2 hands covering their private parts. Krishna, who felt great affection for them, again spoke, quote, "Because while executing a vow you bathed in the water naked, you have committed an offense against the demigods, and to counteract you should offer obeisances with joined palms. Then your vow of austerity will achieve its full result." End quote. The gopis, following this instruction, folded their hands in respect, offered obeisances to Sri Krishna. Satisfied, he gave them back their clothing. But the young girls had become so attracted to him that they could not leave. Understanding their minds, Krishna said that they had worshipped God Katyayani to get him as their husband. Because they had offered their hearts to him, their desires would never again become tainted by the mood of materialistic enjoyment, just as fried barleycorns can no longer grow into shoots. Next autumn, he told them, their most cherished desire would be fulfilled. Then the gopis, fully satisfied, returned to Vraja, and Sri Krishna and his cowherd friends went off to a distant place to graze the cows. Sometime later, when the boys felt disturbed by the great heat of summer, they took shelter at the base of a tree that stood just like an umbrella. The Lord then said that the life of a tree is most excellent, for even while feeling pain, a tree continues to protect others from heat, rain, snow, and so on. With its leaves, flowers, fruits, shade, roots, bark, wood, fragrance, sap, ashes, pulp, and sprouts, a tree fulfills the desires of everyone. This kind of life is ideal. Indeed, said Krishna, the perfection of life is to act with one's vital energy, wealth, intelligence, and words for the benefit of all. After the Lord had glorified the trees in this way, the entire company went to the Yamuna, where the cowherd boys let the cows drink the sweet water, and also drank some themselves. Text 1. Shukadeva Goswami said, during the first month of the winter season, the young unmarried girls of Gokul observed the vow of worshipping goddess Katyayani. For the entire month, they ate only unspiced khichdi. Purport. The word Hemante refers to the month of Magha Shira. from approximately the middle of November to the middle of December, according to the Western calendar. In Chapter 22 of Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Srila Prabhupada comments that the gopis, quote, first ate havishyana, a kind of food prepared by boiling together mung dal and rice without any spices or turmeric. According to Vedic injunction, this kind of food is recommended to purify the body before one enacts a ritualistic ceremony, end quote. Texts 2 and 3. My dear king, after they bathed in the water of the Yamuna, just as the sun was rising, the gopis made an earthen deity of the goddess Durga on the river bank. Then they worshipped her with such aromatic substances as sandalwood pulp, along with other items both opulent and simple, including lamps, fruits, betel nuts, newly grown leaves, and fragrant garlands and incense. Purport. The word balibi in this verse indicates offerings of clothing, ornaments, food, and so on. Text 4. Each of the young unmarried girls performed her worship while chanting the following mantra, quote, O goddess Katyayani, O great potency of the Lord, O possessor of great mystic power and mighty controller of all, please make the son of Nanda Maharaj my husband. Offer my obeisances unto you, end quote. Purport. According to various acharyas, the goddess Durga as mentioned in this verse is not the illusory energy of Krishna called Maya, but rather the internal potency of the Lord known as Yogamaya. The distinction between the internal and external or illusory potency of the Lord is described in the Narada Pancharatra in the conversation between Shruti and Vidya. Janati ekaparakatam Seva Durga tadatmika yapara parama shaktir mahavishnu swarupini yasya vijnana matrena puranam paramatmana madhur tad deva devasya praptir bhavati nanyata ekayam prema sarvashva svabhava gulakeshvari anaya sulabho gneya adidevo kileshvara yasa avarika shaktir mahamaya kileshvari yaya muktam jagat sarvam sarve devha bimanina. Quote, the Lord's inferior potency, known as Durga, is dedicated to his loving service. Being the Lord's potency, this inferior energy is non-different from him. There is another superior potency whose form is on the same spiritual level as that of God himself. Simply by scientifically understanding this supreme potency, one can immediately achieve the supreme soul of all souls, who is the Lord of all lords. There is no other process to achieve him. That supreme potency of the Lord is known as Gokuleshwari, the goddess of Gokul. Her nature is to be completely absorbed in love of God, and through her, one can easily obtain the primeval God, the Lord of all that be. This internal potency of the Lord has a covering potency known as Mahamaya, who rules the material world. In fact, she bewilders the entire universe, and thus everyone within the universe falsely identifies himself with the material body, end quote. From the above, we can understand that the internal and external, or superior and inferior potencies of the Supreme Lord are personified as Yogamaya and Mahamaya, respectively. The name Durga is sometimes used to refer to the internal superior potency, as stated in the Pancharatra. Quote, in all mantras used to worship Krishna, the presiding deity is known as Durga, end quote. Thus, in the transcendental sound vibrations glorifying and worshipping the absolute truth, Krishna, the presiding deity of the particular mantra or hymn is called Durga. The name Durga, therefore, refers to that personality who functions as the internal potency of the Lord, and who is thus on the platform of Suddha-sattva, pure transcendental existence. This internal potency is understood to be Krishna's sister, also known as Ekanamsa or Subhadra. This is the Durga who was worshipped by the gopis in Vrindavan. Several acharyas have pointed out that extraordinary people are sometimes bewildered and think that the names Mahamaya and Durga refer exclusively to the external potency of the Lord. Even if we accept hypothetically that the gopis were worshipping the external Maya, there is no fault on their part, since in their pastimes of loving Krishna they were acting as ordinary members of society. Srila Prabhupada comments in this regard, quote, "The Vaishnavas generally do not worship any demigods. Srila Narottam Das Thakur has strictly forbidden all worship of the demigods for anyone who wants to advance in pure devotional service. Yet, the gopis, who are beyond compare in their affection for Krishna, were seen to worship Durga. The worshippers of demigods also sometimes mentioned that the gopis worshipped the goddess Durga, but we must understand the purpose of the gopis. Generally, people worship the goddess Durga for some material benediction. Here, the gopis prayed to the goddess to become wives of Lord Krishna. The purport is that if Krishna is the center of activity, a devotee can adopt any means to achieve that goal. The gopis could adopt any means to satisfy or serve Krishna. That was the super excellent characteristic of the gopis. They worshipped goddess Durga completely for 1 month in order to have Krishna as their husband. Every day they prayed for Krishna, the son of Nanda Maharaj, to become their husband." End quote. The conclusion is that a sincere devotee of Krishna will never imagine any material quality to exist in the transcendental gopis, who are the most exalted devotees of the Lord. The only motivation in all their activities was to simply love and satisfy Krishna, and if we foolishly consider their activities to be mundane in any way, it will be impossible for us to understand Krishna consciousness. Text 5. Thus, for an entire month, the girls carried out their vow and properly worshipped goddess Bhadrakali, fully absorbing their minds in Krishna and meditating upon the following thought, quote, "May the son of King Nanda become my husband." Text 6. Each day they rose at dawn, calling out to one another by name. They all held hands and loudly sang the glories of Krishna while going to the Kalindi to take their bath. Text 7. One day they came to the riverbank and, putting aside their clothing, as they had done before, happily played in the water while singing the glories of Krishna. Purport. According to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, this incident occurred on the day the young gopis completed their vow, which was a full moon day. To celebrate the successful completion of their vow, the girls invited young Radharani, the daughter of Vishabhanu, and this special object of their affection, along with other important gopis, and brought them all to the river to bathe. Their playing in the water was meant to serve as the Avabrita Snana, the ceremonial bath taken immediately upon the completion of a Vedic sacrifice. Srila Prabhupada comments as follows, quote, "It is an old system among Indian girls and women that when they take a bath in the river, they place their garments on the bank and dip into the water completely naked. The portion of the river where the girls and women bathe was strictly prohibited to any male, and this is still the system. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, knowing the minds of the unmarried gopi girls, awarded them their desired objective. They had prayed to Krishna to become their husband, and Krishna wanted to fulfill their desires." Text 8. Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead and master of all masters of mystic yoga, was aware of what the gopis were doing, and thus he went there, surrounded by his young companions, to award the gopis the perfection of their endeavor. Purport. As the master of all masters of mystic power, Lord Krishna could easily understand the desires of the gopis, and he could also fulfill them. The gopis, like all young girls from respectable families, considered the embarrassment of appearing naked before a young boy to be worse than giving up their lives. Yet, Lord Krishna made them come out of the water and bow down to him. Although the bodily forms of the gopis were all fully developed, and although Krishna met them in a secluded place and brought them fully under his control, because the Lord is completely transcendental, There was not a trace of material desire in his mind. Krishna is the ocean of transcendental bliss, and he wanted to share his bliss with the gopis on the spiritual platform, completely free of ordinary lust. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains that the companions of Krishna mentioned here were mere toddlers 2 or 3 years old. They were completely naked and were unaware of the difference between male and female. When Krishna went out to herd the cows, they followed him because they were so attached to him that they could not bear to be without his association. Text 9. Taking the girl's garments, he quickly climbed to the top of a kadamba tree. Then, as he laughed loudly, and his companions also laughed, he addressed the girls jokingly. Text 10. Lord Krishna said, "My dear girls, you may each come here if you wish to take back your garments. I'm telling you the truth, and I'm not joking with you, since I see you're fatigued from executing austere vows." Text 11. I have never before spoken a lie, and these boys know it. Therefore, O slender-waisted girls, please come forward, either one by one or all together, and pick out your clothes. Text 12. Seeing how Krishna was joking with them, the gopis became fully immersed in love for him, and as they glanced at each other, they began to laugh and joke among themselves, even in their embarrassment. But still, they did not come out of the water. Purport. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains this verse as follows, quote, "The gopis were from most respectable families, and they might have argued with Krishna. Quote, why don't you simply leave our clothes on the bank of the river and go away?" End quote. Krishna might have replied, quote, "But there are so many of you that some of the girls might take clothes belonging to another." End quote. The gopis would reply, "We are honest and never steal anything. We never touch another's property." End quote. Then Krishna would say, quote, "If that's true, then simply come and get your clothes. What is the difficulty?" End quote. When the gopis saw Krishna's determination, they were filled with loving ecstasy. Although embarrassed, they were overjoyed to receive such attention from Krishna. He was joking with them as if they were his wives or girlfriends, and the gopis' only desire was to achieve such a relationship with him. At the same time, they were embarrassed to be seen naked by him. But still, they could not help laughing at his joking words and even began to joke among themselves. One gopi urging another, quote, "Go ahead, you go first, and let us see if Krishna plays any tricks on you. Then we will go later." Text 13. As Sri Govinda spoke to the gopis in this way, his joking words completely captivated their minds. Submerged up to their necks in the cold water, they began to shiver. Thus they addressed him as follows. Purport. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur gives the following example of joking between Krishna and the gopis. Krishna, "O bird-like girls, if you do not come here, then with these garments caught in the branches, I will make a swing and a hammock. I need to lie down, since I have spent the entire night awake, and I'm now becoming sleepy." Gopis, "My dear cowherd boy, your cows, greedy for grass, have gone into a cave. You must go quickly there to herd them and bring them on the proper path." Krishna, Come now, my dear cowherd girls. You must quickly go from here to Vraja to perform your household duties. Don't become a disturbance to your parents and the other elders." Gopis, "My dear Krishna, we will not go home for an entire month, for if it is by our order, the order of our parents and other elders, that we are executing this vow of fasting, the Katyayani Vrata." Krishna, "My dear austere ladies, I too, by the strength of seeing you, have now developed a surprising mood of detachment from family life. I wish to stay here for a month and execute the vow of dwelling in the clouds. And if you show mercy to me, I can come down from here and observe the vow of fasting in your company." The gopis were completely captivated by Krishna's joking words, but out of shyness they submerged themselves in water up to their necks. Shaking from the cold, they addressed Krishna as follows. Text 14. The gopis said, Dear Krishna, don't be unfair. We know that you are the respectable son of Nanda and that you are honored by everyone in Vraja. You are also very dear to us. Please give us back our clothes. We are shivering in the cold water. Text 15. O Shamasundar, we are your maidservants and must do whatever you say. But give us back our clothing. You know what the religious principles are, and if you don't give us our clothes, we will have to tell the king. Please. Text 16. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, If you girls are actually my maidservants, and if you will really do what I say, then come here with your innocent smiles and let each girl pick out her clothes. If you don't do what I say, I won't give them back to you. And even if the king becomes angry, what can he do? Purport. Srila Prabhupada comments, when the gopis saw that Krishna was strong and determined, they had no alternative but to abide by his order. Text 17. Then, shivering from the painful cold, all the young girls rose up out of the water, covering their pubic area with their hands. Purport. The gopis had assured Krishna that they were his eternal servants and would do whatever he said, and thus they were now defeated by their own words. If they delayed any longer, they thought, some other man might come along, and this would be unbearable for them. The gopis loved Krishna so much that even in that awkward situation, their attachment to him was increasing more and more, and they were very eager to stay in his company. Thus, they did not even consider drowning themselves in the river because of the embarrassing situation. They concluded that they could do nothing but go forward to their beloved Krishna, putting aside their embarrassment. Thus, the gopis assured each other that there was no alternative, and rose up out of the water to meet him. Text 18. When the Supreme Lord saw how the gopis were struck with embarrassment, he was satisfied by their pure, loving affection. Putting their clothes on his shoulder, the Lord smiled and spoke to them with affection. Purport. Srila Prabhupada comments, quote, the gopis' simple presentation was so pure that Lord Krishna immediately became pleased with them. All the unmarried gopis who prayed to Katyayani to have Krishna as their husband were thus satisfied. A woman cannot be naked before any male except her husband. The unmarried gopis desired Krishna as their husband, and he fulfilled their desire in this way. End quote. For aristocratic girls like the gopis, standing naked before a young boy was worse than death, and yet they decided to give up everything for the pleasure of Lord Krishna. They wanted to see the power of their love. He wanted to see the power of their love for him, and he was completely satisfied by their unalloyed devotion. Text 19. Lord Krishna said, You girls bathed naked while executing your vow, and that is certainly an offense against the demigods. To counteract your sin, you should offer obeisances while placing your joined palms above your heads. Then you should take back your lower garments. Purport. Krishna wanted to see the full surrender of the gopis, and thus he ordered them to offer obeisances with their palms joined above their heads. In other words, the gopis could no longer cover their bodies. We should not foolishly think that Lord Krishna is an ordinary lusty boy enjoying the naked beauty of the gopis. Krishna is the supreme absolute truth, and he was acting to fulfill the loving desire of the young cowherd girls of Vrindavan. In this world, we would certainly become lusty in a situation like this, but to compare ourselves with God is a great offense, and because of this offense, we will not be able to understand Krishna's transcendental position, for we will wrongly take him to be materially conditioned like ourselves. To lose transcendental sight of Krishna is certainly a great disaster for anyone who is trying to relish the bliss of the absolute truth. Text 20. Thus the young girls of Vrindavan, considering what Lord Achyuta had told them, accepted that they had suffered a fall down from their vow by bathing naked in the river. But they still desired to successfully complete their vow, and since Lord Krishna is himself the ultimate result of all pious activities, they offered their obeisances to him to cleanse away all their sins. Purport. The transcendental position of Krishna consciousness is clearly described here. The gopis decided that it was better to renounce their so-called family tradition and traditional morality and simply surrender unto the Supreme Lord, Krishna. This does not mean that the Krishna consciousness movement advocates immoral activities. In fact, the devotees of ISKCON practice the highest standard of restraint and morality, but at the same time we recognize the transcendental position of Krishna. Lord Krishna is God, and therefore has no material desire to enjoy young girls in sexual affairs. As will be seen in this chapter, Lord Krishna was not at all attracted to enjoying the gopis. Rather, he was attracted to their love and wanted to satisfy them. The greatest offense is to imitate the activities of Lord Krishna. In India, there is a group called Prakriti Sahajya who imitate these affairs of Krishna and try to enjoy naked young girls in the name of worshipping Krishna. The ISKCON movement sternly rejects this mockery of religion because the greatest offense is for a human being to ludicrously imitate the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the ISKCON movement, there are no cheap incarnations, and it is not possible for a devotee of this movement to promote himself to the position of Krishna. 500 years ago, Krishna appeared as Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who practiced strict celibacy throughout his student life, and at the age of 24 took sannyas, a lifelong vow of celibacy. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu rigidly avoided contact with women in order to carry out his vow of loving service to Krishna. When Krishna personally appeared 5,000 years ago, he exhibited these wonderful pastimes which attract our attention. We should not become envious or shocked when we hear that God can perform such pastimes. Our shock is due to our ignorance, because if we tried to perform these activities, our bodies would be afflicted by lust. Lord Krishna, however, is the supreme absolute truth, and is never therefore disturbed by any material desire whatsoever. Thus, this incident in which the gopis gave up normal standards of morality and, raising their hands above their head, bowed down in compliance with Krishna's order, is an example of pure devotional surrender and not a discrepancy of religious principles. In fact, the gopis' surrender is the perfection of all religion, as Srila Prabhupada describes in Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Quote, "The gopis were all simple souls, and whatever Krishna said, they took to be true. In order to be freed from the wrath of Varunadev, as well as to fulfill the desired end of their vows and ultimately to please their worshipable Lord, Krishna, they immediately abided by his order. Thus, they became the greatest lovers of Krishna, his most obedient servitors." Nothing can compare with the Krishna consciousness of the gopis. Actually, the gopis did not care for Varuna or any other demigod. They only wanted to satisfy Krishna. End quote. Chapter 21. Seeing them bow down like that, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the son of Devaki, gave them back their garments, feeling compassionate toward them and satisfied by their act. Text 22. Although the gopis had been thoroughly cheated, deprived of their modesty, ridiculed, and made to act just like toy dolls, and although their clothing had been stolen, they did not feel at all inimical toward Sri Krishna. Rather, they were simply joyful to have this opportunity to associate with their beloved. Purport. Srila Prabhupada comments, quote, "This attitude of the gopis is described by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu when he prays, quote, 'My dear Lord Krishna, you may embrace me or trample me under your feet, or you may make me broken-hearted by never being present before me. Whatever you like you can do, because you have complete freedom to act. But in spite of all your dealings, you are my Lord eternally, and I have no other worshipable object.'" End quote. This is the attitude of the gopis toward Krishna. Text 23. The gopis were addicted to associating with their beloved Krishna, and thus they became captivated by him. Thus, even after putting their clothes on, they did not move. They simply remained where they were, shyly glancing at him. Purport. By association with their beloved Krishna, the gopis had become more attached to him than ever. Just as Krishna had stolen their clothes, he had also stolen their minds and their love. The gopis interpreted the whole incident as proof that Krishna was also attached to them. Otherwise, why would he have gone to the trouble of playing with them in this way? Because they thought that Krishna was now attached to them, they glanced at him with shyness, and being stunned by the rising of their ecstatic love, they could not move from where they stood. Krishna had overcome their shyness and forced them to come out of the water naked. But now, having dressed properly, they again became shy in his presence. In fact, this incident increased their humbleness before Krishna. They did not want Krishna to see them staring at him, but they cautiously took the opportunity to glance at the Lord. Text 24. The Supreme Lord understood the determination of the gopis in executing their strict vow. The Lord also knew that the girls desired to touch his lotus feet, and thus Lord Damodar, Krishna, spoke to them as follows. Text 25. Lord Krishna said, "O saintly girls, I understand that your real motive in this austerity has been to worship me. That intent of yours is approved of by me, and indeed it must come to pass." Purport. Just as Krishna is free from all impure desire, so are the gopis. Their attempt to gain Krishna as their husband was therefore motivated not by a desire for personal sense gratification, but by their overwhelming desire to serve Krishna and to please him. Because of their intense love, the gopis did not see Krishna as God, but rather as the most wonderful boy in all creation, and being beautiful young girls, they desired only to please him by loving service. Lord Krishna understood the pure desire of the gopis and was thus satisfied. The Lord could certainly not be satisfied by ordinary lust, but he was moved by the intense loving devotion of the cowherd girls of Vrindavan. Text 26. The desire of those who fix their minds on me does not lead to material desire for sense gratification, just as barley corns burned by the sun can then cooked can no longer grow into new sprouts. Purport. The words Mai Evashita Diyam are very significant here. Unless one has achieved an advanced degree of devotion, one cannot fix the mind and intelligence on Krishna, since Krishna is pure spiritual existence. Self-realization is a state not of desirelessness, but rather of purified desire, wherein one desires only the pleasure of Lord Krishna. The gopis were certainly attracted to Krishna in the mood of conjugal love, and yet, having fixed their minds and indeed their entire existence completely on Krishna, their conjugal desire could never manifest as material lust. Rather, it became the most exalted form of love of Godhead ever seen within the universe. Text 27. Go now, girls, and return to Vraja, your desires fulfilled, for in my company you will enjoy the coming nights. After all, this was the purpose of your vow, to worship the goddess Katyayani, O pure-hearted ones. Text 28. Shukadeva Goswami said, thus instructed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the young girls, their desire now fulfilled, could bring themselves only with great difficulty to return to the village of Vraja, meditating all the while upon his lotus feet. Purport. The gopis' desire was fulfilled because Lord Krishna had agreed to act as their husband. A young girl can never spend a night with any man except her husband, and thus when Krishna agreed to engage the girls in the nocturnal rasa dance during the coming autumn season, in effect, he was agreeing to reciprocate their love for him in the role of a husband. Text 29. Sometime later, Lord Krishna, the son of Devaki, surrounded his cowherd friends and, accompanied by his elder brother Balaram, went a good distance away from Vrindavan, herding the cows. Purport. Having described how Lord Krishna stole the garments of the young gopis, Shukadeva Goswami now begins introducing the description of Lord Krishna's blessings upon the wives of some ritualistic brahmanas. Text 30. When the sun's heat became intense, Lord Krishna saw that the trees were acting as umbrellas by shading him, and thus he spoke as follows to his boyfriends. Text 32. Lord Krishna said, O Stuta Krishna and Amsu, O Shridam Subal and Arjuna, O Vishala, Vishaba, O Jasvi, Devaprastha and Varuptapa, just see how these greatly fortunate trees whose lives are completely dedicated to the benefit of others, even while tolerating the wind, rain, heat, and snow, they protect us from these elements. Purport. Lord Krishna was preparing to bestow his mercy on the wives of the hard-hearted ritualistic brahmanas, and in these verses the Lord indicates that even trees who are dedicated to the welfare of others are superior to brahmanas who are not. Certainly, the members of the Krishna consciousness movement should soberly study this point. Text 33. Just see how these trees are maintaining every living entity. Their birth is successful. Their behavior is just like that of great personalities, for anyone who asks anything from a tree never goes away disappointed. Report. This translation is quoted from Srila Prabhupada's Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Lila 946. Text 34. These trees fulfill one's desires with their leaves, flowers, and fruits, their shade, roots, bark, and wood, and also with their fragrance, sap, ashes, pulp, and shoots. Text 35. It is the duty of every living being to perform welfare activities for the benefit of others with his life, wealth, intelligence, and words. Purport. This translation is quoted from Srila Prabhupada's Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Lila 942. Text 36. Those moving among the trees whose branches are bent low by their abundance of twigs, fruits, flowers, and leaves, Lord Krishna came to the Yamuna River. Text 37. The cowherd boys let the cows drink the clear, cool, and wholesome water of the Yamuna, O King Cricket. The cowherd boys also themselves drank that sweet water to their full satisfaction. Text 38. Then, O king, the cowherd boys began herding the animals in a leisurely way within a small forest along the Yamuna. But soon they became afflicted by hunger, and approaching Krishna and Balaram spoke as follows. Purport. Srila Jiva Goswami explains that the cowherd boys were concerned that Krishna would be hungry, and thus they feigned their own hunger so that Krishna and Balaram would make suitable arrangements to eat. Thus end the purports of the humble servants of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, to the 10th canto, 22nd chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled, quote, Krishna steals the garments of the unmarried gopis, end quote. The following is a free-for-download audiobook available on Google Drive. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10. The following is a free-for-download audiobook available on Google Drive. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 23. The Brahmana's Wives Blessed. This chapter describes how Lord Sri Krishna, after inducing the cowherd boys to beg for food, showed mercy to the wives of some brahmanas performing a sacrifice and made the brahmanas themselves feel remorse. When the cowherd boys became hungry, they asked Sri Krishna about obtaining food, and he sent them to beg from a group of brahmanas who were performing a sacrifice nearby. But these brahmanas ignored the boys, thinking Sri Krishna an ordinary human being. The boys returned disappointed, but the Lord sent them off again, advising them to ask the brahmanas' wives for the food. These ladies had heard of Krishna's transcendental qualities and were very much attached to him. As soon as they learned he was nearby, they went to him in great haste, bringing all 4 varieties of food. In this way they offered themselves to Krishna. Krishna told the women that while one can develop transcendental love for him by seeing his deity form in the temple, meditating upon him, and chanting his glories, one cannot achieve this result simply by being in his physical presence. He advised them that since they were housewives, their particular duty was to help their husbands perform sacrifices. He therefore instructed them to return to their homes. When the ladies went back home, their Brahmana husbands at once felt remorse, and they lamented, quote, For anyone inimical to Krishna, his three births, seminal, Brahminical, and sacrificial, are all condemned. On the other hand, these womenfolk, who have not undergone the purificatory processes of the Brahminical class or performed any austerity or pious rituals, have, through devotion for Krishna, easily cut off the bondage of death. Since Lord Krishna's every desire is completely fulfilled, his begging for food was simply an act of mercy toward us Brahmanas. All the fruits of Vedic sacrifice, indeed all things on earth, are his opulences, and yet out of ignorance we could not appreciate this fact." End quote. Having spoken thus, all the Brahmanas offered their obeisances to Lord Shri Krishna, hoping to counteract their offense. Nevertheless, out of fear of King Kamsa, they did not go to see the Lord in person. Text 1. The cowherd boys said, "O Ram, Ram, mighty armed one, O Krishna, chastiser of the wicked, we are being harassed by hunger, and you should do something about it." Purport. The cowherd boys jokingly implied that since Sri Krishna is the subduer of all bad things, the Lord should subdue their hunger by arranging for them to eat. In this statement by the cowherd boys, we observe the intimate, loving friendship they enjoyed with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Text 2. Shukadeva Goswami said, "Thus entreated by the cowherd boys, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the son of Devaki, replied as follows, desiring to please certain of his devotees who were Brahmanas' wives." Text 3. Lord Krishna said, "Please go to the sacrificial arena where a group of Brahmanas learned in the Vedic injunctions are now performing the Angiras sacrifice to gain promotion to heaven." Text 4. When you go there, my dear cowherd boys, simply request some food. Declare to them the name of my elder brother, the Supreme Lord Balaram, and also my name, and explain that you have been sent by us. Purport. Lord Krishna encouraged his boyfriends to request charity without being embarrassed. In case the boys felt they had no right to personally approach such respectable Brahmanas, the Lord told them to mention the names of Balaram and Krishna, the holy names of God. Text 5. Thus instructed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the cowherd boys went there and submitted their request. They stood before the Brahmanas with palms joined in supplication, and then fell flat on the ground to offer respect. Text 6. The cowherd boys said, "O earthly gods, please hear us. We cowherd boys are executing the orders of Krishna, and we have been sent here by Balaram. We wish all good for you. Please acknowledge our arrival." Purport. The word Bhumi Deva, quote, gods on earth, end quote, refers here to the Brahmanas, who are supposed to closely represent the will of the Supreme Lord. The philosophy of Krishna consciousness is not a primitive polytheistic doctrine holding that human beings are on the earth are gods. Rather, it is a science that traces the descent of authority from the Absolute Truth himself, Shri Krishna. The authority and power of God naturally extend along with the extension of his creation, and on earth, the Lord's will and authority are represented by purified, enlightened men called Brahmanas. This account will illustrate that the ritualistic Brahmanas approached by the cowherd boys were not at all properly enlightened, and thus could not appreciate the position of Krishna and Balaram or that of their intimate associates. In fact, this pastime exposes the pretentious position of so-called Brahmanas who are not faithful devotees of the Supreme Lord. Text 7. Lord Raman and Lord Achyuta are tending their cows not far from here. They are hungry and want you to give them some of your food. Therefore, O Brahmanas, O best of knowers of religion, if you have faith, please give some food to them. Purport. The cowherd boys doubted the generosity of the Brahmanas, and thus they used the word bubhukshitao, meaning that Krishna and Balaram were hungry. The boys expected the Brahmanas to know the Vedic injunction, anasya kshuditam patram. Quote, anyone who is hungry is a fit candidate for receiving food in charity, end quote. But if the Brahmanas would not recognize the authority of Krishna and Balaram, their title Dvija would be taken to mean merely, quote, born from two parents, end quote. Dvi, from two, ja, born, rather than, quote, twice born, end quote. When the Brahmanas did not respond to the cowherd boy's initial request, the boys addressed the Brahmanas with a slight trace of sarcasm as Dharma Vitama, quote, O best of the knowers of religion, end quote. Text 8. Except during the interval between the initiation of the performer of a sacrifice and the actual sacrifice of the animal, O most pure Brahmanas, it is not a contaminating for even the initiated to partake of food, at least in sacrifices other than the Shotramani purport. The cowherd boys anticipated the possible rejection from the Brahmanas that they couldn't give the boys any food because they themselves had not yet eaten, and that a priest initiated to perform a sacrifice should not eat. Therefore, the boys humbly informed the Brahmanas about various technicalities of ritualistic sacrifice. The cowherd boys were not unaware of the formalities of Vedic culture, but their real intention was simply to render loving service to Lord Krishna. Text 9. The Brahmanas heard this supplication from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, yet they refused to pay heed. Indeed, they were full of petty desires and entangled in elaborate rituals. Though presuming themselves advanced in Vedic learning, they were actually inexperienced fools. Purport. These childish Brahmanas were full of petty desires, such as the desire to attain to material heaven, and therefore they could not recognize the golden transcendental opportunity offered them by the arrival of Krishna's personal boyfriends. Presently, throughout the world, people are madly pursuing materialist advancement and thus cannot hear the message of the Supreme Lord Krishna that is being broadcast through the missionary activities of the Krishna consciousness movement. Times have hardly changed, and proud materialistic priests are still prevalent on the earth. Text 11. Although the ingredients of sacrificial performance, the place, time, particular paraphernalia, mantras, rituals, priests, fires, demigods, performer, offering, and the as yet unseen beneficial results are all simply aspects of his opulence, the Brahmanas saw Lord Krishna as an ordinary human because of their perverted intelligence. They failed to recognize that he is the supreme absolute truth, the directly manifest personality of Godhead, whom the material senses cannot ordinarily perceive. Thus, bewildered by their false identification with the mortal body, they did not show him proper respect. Purport. The ritualistic Brahmanas could not understand why the sacrificial food should be offered to Lord Krishna, whom they considered an ordinary human being, just as a person with rose-colored glasses sees the entire world as rose-colored. A conditioned soul with mundane vision sees even God himself as mundane, and thus loses the opportunity to go back home, back to Godhead. Text 12. When the Brahmanas failed to reply, even with a simple yes or no, O chastiser of the enemy, Pricket, the cowherd boys returned disappointed to Krishna and Ram and reported this to them. Text 13. Hearing what had happened, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Lord of the universe, simply laughed. He then again addressed the cowherd boys, showing them the way men act in this world. Purport. By laughing, Lord Krishna indicated to the cowherd boys that they need not be angry at the ritualistic Brahmanas, but should understand that one who begs will often be refused. Text 14. Lord Krishna said, Tell the wives of the Brahmanas that I have come here with Lord Shankarshan. They will certainly give you all the food you want, for they are most affectionate toward me, and, indeed, with their intelligence reside in me alone. Purport. While physically the wives of the Brahmanas remained at home, within their minds they resided in the Supreme Lord Krishna because of intense affection for him. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains that the reason Lord Krishna did not have the cowherd boys tell the Brahmanas' wives he was hungry is that he knew this would severely distress these devoted ladies. Simply out of affection for Lord Krishna, however, the wives would be happy to give all the food requested of them. They would not heed their husbands' prohibitions since they resided within the Lord through their transcendental intelligence. Text 15. The cowherd boys then went to the house where the Brahmanas' wives were staying. There the boys saw those chaste ladies sitting, nicely decorated with fine ornaments. Bowing down to the Brahmana ladies, the boys addressed them in all humility. Text 16. The cowherd boys said, "Obeisances unto you, O wives of the learned Brahmanas. Kindly hear our words. We have been sent here by Lord Krishna, who is passing by not far from here." Text 17. He has come a long way with the cowherd boys and Lord Balaram tending the cows. Now he is hungry, so some food should be given to him and his companions. Text 18. The wives of the Brahmanas were always eager to see Krishna, and for their minds had been enchanted by descriptions of him. Then, as soon as they heard he had come, they became very excited. Text 19. Taking along in large vessels all the 4 kinds of foods, full of fine tastes and aromas, all the ladies went forth to meet their beloved, just as rivers flow toward the sea. Purport. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains that the wives of the Brahmanas experienced conjugal feelings toward Krishna as if he were their paramour, and thus they could not be checked as they rushed to see him. Text 21. Although their husbands, brothers, sons, and other relatives tried to forbid them from going, their hope of seeing Krishna, cultivated by extensive hearing of his transcendental qualities, won out. Along the river Yamuna, with its garden decorated with buds of Ashoka trees, they caught sight of him strolling along in the company of the cowherd boys and his elder brother, Balaram. Text 22. His complexion was dark blue and his garment golden, wearing a peacock feather, colored minerals, sprigs of flower buds, and a garland of forest flowers and leaves. He was dressed just like a dramatic dancer. He rested one hand upon the shoulder of a friend, and with the other twirled a lotus. Lilies graced his ears, his hair hung down over his cheeks, and his lotus-like face was smiling. Text 23. O ruler of men, for a long time these Brahmana ladies had heard about Krishna, their beloved, and his glories had become the constant ornaments of their ears. Indeed, their minds were always absorbed in him. Through the apertures of their eyes, they now forced him to enter within their hearts. And then they embraced him within for a long time. In this way, they finally gave up the pain of separation from him, just as sages give up the anxiety of false ego by embracing their innermost consciousness. Text 24. Lord Krishna, who witnesses the thoughts of all creatures, understood how those ladies had abandoned all worldly hopes and come there simply to see him. Thus he addressed them as follows, with a smile upon his face. Text 25. Lord Krishna said, "Welcome, O most fortunate ladies. Please sit down and make yourselves comfortable. What can I do for you? That you have come here to see me is most appropriate." Purport. Just as Sri Krishna welcomed the gopis who came to dance with him at night, he similarly welcomed the Brahmanas' wives, whose pure love for him was proved by their overcoming many hindrances to see the Lord. The word upapanam indicates that although these ladies had rejected their husbands' orders, their behavior was not at all inappropriate, since their husbands had obviously tried to obstruct their loving service to Lord Krishna. Text 28:6.
Jai ঘাড়ে গানে হেরি নয়নের কোণে তৃপ্ত হয়ে খায় কৃষ্ণ যশোদা ভবানী ভোজনন্দ প্রিয় কৃষ্ণ সুবাসিত বারি সবে মুখ প্রকালয় হরে সরি সরি আস্ত মুখ প্রকালিয়া যত সত গানে আনন্দে বিশ্রাম করে বলদেব সানে জাম্বুল রসালানে তাম্বুল মশালা তাহাকে কৃষ্ণচন্দ্র নিরাখেলা বিশালাকা শিখি পুছা ছামর দুলায়া অপূর্বতায় কৃষ্ণ সুখে নিরয়ায়া যশোমতি অঙ্গ প্রিয় ধনিষ্ঠয়নীত শ্রীকৃষ্ণ প্রসাদ রাধা কুঞ্জে হয়ে প্রীত ললিতারি সাক্ষী গানা অবশেষ পায়া মনে মনে সুখে রাধা কৃষ্ণ গুণ গায় হরি লীলা একমাত্র যাহার প্রমোদ ভোগারতি গায় ঠাকুর ভক্তি বিনোদ কত বৎসল শ্রী গৌর হরি বজ্রব কত বৎসল শ্রী গৌর হরি শ্রী গৌর হরি সহি গোষ্ঠ বিহারী শ্রী গৌর হরি সহি গোষ্ঠ বিহারী নন্দ যশোমতি চিত হরি নন্দ যশোমতি চিত হরি ভজ গোবিন্দ গোবিন্দ গোপালা ভজ গোবিন্দ গোবিন্দ গোপালা ভজ গোবিন্দ গোবিন্দ গোপালা ভজ গোবিন্দ গোবিন্দ গোপালা গায় গোর মধুস্বরে গায় গোর মধুস্বরে মায়া জলে বদ হয়ে আজ মিছে কাজ লয়ে মায়া জলে বদ হয়ে আজ মিছে কাজ লয়ে পেয়ে রাধা মাধব নাম বলো রে। এখন আছে থানা পেয়ে রাধা মাধব নাম বলো রে। গায় গোরা মধুস্বরে, গায় গোরা মধুস্বরে। জীবন হইল শেষ, না বাজিলে ঋষিকে। 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 ভক্তি বিনোদ উপাদে একবার নাম রসে মতরে। ভক্তি বিনোদ উপাদে একবার নাম রসে মতরে। গায় গোরা মধুস্বরে, গায় গোরা মধুস্বরে। হরে কৃষ্ণ হরে কৃষ্ণ, কৃষ্ণ কৃষ্ণ হরে হরে। হরে রাম হরে রাম, রাম রাম হরে হরে। হরে কৃষ্ণ হরে কৃষ্ণ, কৃষ্ণ কৃষ্ণ হরে হরে। হরে রাম হরে রাম, রাম রাম হরে হরে। হরে কৃষ্ণ হরে কৃষ্ণ, কৃষ্ণ কৃষ্ণ হরে হরে। হরে রাম হরে রাম, রাম রাম হরে হরে। গায় গোরা মধুস্বরে, Jaya Vrindavana Sri Govinda Gopinatha Madana Mohana Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Kalindi Jamuna Jaya Jaya Mahavan Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Banshi Bata Raja Shakana Jaha